In retrospect, it's really interesting how the writers of CatDog approached the premise of their characters. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, CatDog is a phenomenal show. It may rely on the typical two main characters who are complete opposites of each other trope, but not only did they do it in a way that put them in a league of their own, I feel like they did it very strategically. Hear me out. Throughout the series, Cat is usually portrayed as the greedy stick in the mud who craves attention, whereas Dog is portrayed as a happy-go-lucky guy who just wants to have a good time. As a result, we would see a lot of really bad things happening to Cat, while usually really good things would happen to Dog, usually without him even really trying. Now, as a viewer, especially as a kid, this would, by default, result in a good portion of people being more favorable of Dog than they are of Cat, due to the former's almost childlike nature. Dog is constantly seen just enjoying his shows or comics, snacking, and overall having a good time. Meanwhile, Cat is usually just like reading a book. Not to say that there's anything wrong with reading, of course, but kids are likely to naturally gravitate towards the character who's focused on having fun all the time and being all bubbly in comparison to Cat, who's more reserved and tends to have kind of a realist mentality for the most part. With that being said though, looking back at this show with the lens of being an adult, the view of these characters completely changes if you look at them at a different angle. The basis of this show is that they are two completely different characters connected at the abdomen, so they're together all the time. But imagine instead of being two different people connected as one, they were actually the same person. With Cat representing the current day person as an adult who has to take care of the finances and keep everything in line. Meanwhile, Dog represents that same person's inner child and fun-loving side who just wants to watch TV and play video games all the time. Cat comes across as a bummer a lot of the time, but the thing is, one of them has to be the responsible one here. Dog's happy-go-lucky nature, on the other hand, is definitely one that I can relate to as it pertains to my inner child. Looking at it through this lens can definitely change how you perceive this show completely. By all means, that's not what's really happening here, obviously, but imagining it like that can give you so much more empathy for these characters and kind of connect a few mental dots. Putting it into perspective, imagining Cat as your responsible adult self can give you a lot of empathy for those times when he's coming across as a party pooper. It's not an excuse by any means, but him being a jerk sometimes is likely due to his responsible, realist nature. As the one who's responsible for the house and has to be the adult in their existence, it's probably a lot for him to take on. This also kind of adds a layer of empathy for why he can be so short-fused when interacting with Dog. Again, picturing them as the same person, Dog is the inner child who just wants to chill and watch some wrestling while he munches on some chips. However, Cat is the fully grown adult who has responsibilities and needs to keep everything in order. As a result, he tends to get frustrated easily with Dog. On the other hand though, thinking about it like that definitely adds to the soft spot that I already had for Dog. Imagining him as my inner child makes it hurt so much more when we come across an episode where someone treats Dog so badly. It's important to keep in mind, obviously, that this is me reading deeper into the cartoon than was originally intended, by all means. However, I got a sense of enjoyment from thinking about the show in this context, and I feel like you could too. That's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're gonna check out an episode that just feels perfect to look at in this context. But first, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, thanks for clicking on this video, and thanks for being a part of my YouTube journey. I've been working on a couple of shorter videos recently because I've got another huge video that I'm about to start, and I don't want to miss my upload schedule because some of these huge videos I've got planned are gonna take ages to make. I'm so thankful for all of you that watch not only the really long videos, but also the shorter videos, and I just want you to know that your support is appreciated so much. Today, we're checking out the Season 1 episode, Fistful of Mail.
For a dog and his pride, it's all about a fistful of mail.
As this episode starts out, we see Mervis hiding outside of CatDog's house. He's sneaking around and looking very nervous. He hides behind a rock and sets down his bag as he catches a peek at the mailbox. It then becomes pretty clear that Mervis has been given the unfortunate job of delivering CatDog's mail. He gives himself a quick pep talk before sneaking carefully up to the mailbox. He approaches it and opens up the little hatch, but as soon as he does, the front door swings open and Dog catches sight of him. Mervis tries to run, but unfortunately for him, Dog is in hot pursuit and not far behind. We then cut to later that afternoon in CatDog's living room.
I hope you're proud of yourself, Dog. You've chased away every uniformed delivery person in the county.
Cat gets frustrated with Dog because he can't get his fish of the month delivered because no mail person can get close to their house.
Nobody's faster than me. Nobody.
Nobody, Dog? I seem to recall that one time you came up empty.
I don't want to talk about that. I was just a pup.
As Cat sits there reading his smelly magazine, we hear what sounds like a race car outside. He opens up the door, and to his surprise, he spies a new mail person approaching rapidly.
It's a new mailman.
Yeah, better clear a little space on the old wall.
As the mailman arrives in his cowboy boots, he approaches rather menacingly. Dog opens the door with a serious look on his face as Cat begs him to just let him deliver the mail first. Dog walks up to the new mail person, who's this intimidating lizard in a cowboy costume.
People told me you were fast. People talk too much.
Talk is cheap.
Not cheap enough.
The two of them gear up to charge, and before you know it, Dog is sprinting at him. However, the mailman seems to have completely vanished, already at the mailbox, having stuffed it full. Dog chalks it up to beginner's luck, and we cut right on over to the next day, where Dog is just waiting for the mailman under the mailbox.
Oh, you again. No more Mr. Nice Dog.
Dog lays there defeated as the mailman puts the mail in their box. The days continue to pass as we see CatDog's mailbox get more and more stuffed as Dog fails repeatedly to catch the mailman. Finally, he raises the white flag and admits that he can't catch him.
What's the matter with your eyes?
Oh, so long ago.
Let's go, Dog. Come on.
Slow poke. Slow poke.
We cut back to today, where the past mail delivery people are hanging out outside CatDog's house, wondering if all the rumors are true about Dog hanging up his hat from the mail person chasing game. Inside the house, we see Dog with his teeth hung up on the wall, while he lays on the couch, donning his 5 o'clock shadow and a beer gut. Cat tries to talk some sense into him, telling him that he needs to get up, but Dog continues to mope, saying that he just can't.
I swore I'd never get whooped again. But look at me now. I'm nothing. I'm not even a dog. I'm a slowpoke.
Dog tosses the empty can behind him, and as soon as he does, the mailman kicks the door open and helps himself right into CatDog's house. Cat is so excited to see him, wondering if his fish of the month has arrived yet.
Don't worry, it's a coming.
Leadfoot.
Some dog.
Why, he's yeller.
Dog sits there with tears coming out of his eyes, while they all just laugh at him and then walk out. Feeling bad for Dog, Cat goes over and grabs his teeth off the wall, telling him that he needs to get back into the chase. He gives Dog a great pep talk, reminding him that back when the paperboy evaded him, he didn't quit then, and he shouldn't quit now.
Come on, take the teeth. Be a dog. Woof.
After getting a nice good deep whiff of the mail, Dog springs into action with the help of Cat. The two of them suit up as Dog dons a poncho and a nice big rimmed cowboy hat, ready to take on the new mailman. He heads outside, and instead of the normal landscape of their house, they seem to be in the desert. The mailman approaches as the clock strikes high noon. The two of them have a standoff as Dog brandishes his large teeth at the lizard cowboy, who seems none too impressed.
It's you! The paper boy!
I'm not the paper boy anymore. I'm the mailman.
Cat, I'm not fast enough to beat him.
Slowpoke, slowpoke. Na 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 na. Slowpoke.
Dog gets fed up with his teasing as he decides to ignore the song and jump right into action. The two sprint at each other at high speed, and they end up colliding, leaving the mailman knocked on his rear end.
Mommy! A big bad doggy bit my tiny.
Dog chews on the mailman's pants before spitting them out. He stands there, feeling on top of the world as he shouts for the mailman to never come back to these parts again.
Dog against mailman is a duel as old as time. A dog who's lost his nerve is like a song that's lost its rhyme. But when the dust had cleared, the dog done realized his quest. He owned that mailman's trousers, 'twas the biker round the west. Adios, slowpoke. Oh, the cat never got that fish.
This episode is one that really resonated with me when I was a kid, but as an adult, I feel like it hits so much harder. As a kid, I took this story at face value as it was intended. I was one of those kids who automatically gravitated towards Dog, so seeing him get defeated and reach rock bottom made me really sad. Then, of course, seeing Cat basically happy that Dog isn't chasing male people anymore made me not like Cat. After all, he was the one at the beginning teasing Dog for not getting the paperboy when he was a pup. However, when I look back at this one, not only as an adult, but also kind of imagining this story in a way that implies that Dog and Cat are the same person, I definitely get a lot more out of it. For example, Cat mentioning to Dog in the beginning of the episode that there was one person that was faster than him could be seen as that self-doubt bringing down the hopeful nature that still lives within your inner child, which is fragile in nature. With the world we live in nowadays and the awful things that we see on the news and in our everyday lives, it's hard to stay hopeful and have that spark of your inner child stay alive. It's a broad comparison, but a lot of the themes in this episode, to me, remind me of self-doubt and selling yourself short. Again, if we look at it in the context of your inner, dulled, responsible adult brain warring with your happy inner childlike self. Like, it makes me think about being hopeful that you're gonna attain a goal that you've been striving for, but there's always that inner part of your brain that reminds you of your past shortcomings, so you begin to doubt yourself a little bit. As it pertains to Cat, it changes how I perceive him in this episode. As a kid, I just kinda saw him as the antagonist who was teasing Dog for not being fast enough to catch the paperboy when he was a pup. As an adult though, it's a different view now. I see his jabs more of that small bit of self-doubt that can still exist even though you may be a confident person like Dog was. After all, Cat's on this ship too. They're two parts of the same person essentially, and as we saw when Dog hit rock bottom, as this ship starts to sink, Cat's going down as well. It made me have a little more empathy for Cat in this regard, and it kinda helped me see him more as a realist than just an antagonist. I will be the first to admit that I've looked negatively at Cat in the past and even said some pretty negative things about him in past videos that I've made, but I'm here to take that back and say that we should all have a little bit more empathy for Cat. He may come across abrasive at times, but we have to keep in mind that he's the responsible one of the house, and it's kind of his job to make sure that everything is in order. He's usually the one that does the cleaning, shopping, and mostly everything else. He's basically the adult in the household fending for himself and his brother. He's trying his best, and when it comes down to it, Cat knows when to give him a good pep talk and to be optimistic. He's the whole reason that we see Dog rise up from Bottle's bottom in this episode. His pep talk and getting Dog to sniff some mail is what gave him the determination he needed to keep going. This is great symbolization for the balance of realism and optimism in life. It's important to nourish that inner child and stay as hopeful as you can. However, it's also key to do what's necessary to survive and to take care of yourself and your family. The whole portion of the episode where Dog realized that he couldn't catch the mailman and Cat had to help build him up from his depression really just felt like a metaphor for healing your inner child. When he realizes that he can't catch the mailman, Dog essentially has a PTSD flashback to his childhood. We don't have much context to his relationship with male people before this point in his childhood, but it's clear that this is likely where his fixation on being the fastest began. We see him attempt to catch the paperboy, only to get humiliated and hit with a newspaper. The paperboy teased him and called him a slowpoke. Not only did that humiliate Dog and leave him with a memory that still haunts him subconsciously to this day, but it also started his complex about catching every single male person that he comes across. It's to the point where even one of his best friends, Mervis, gets a job as a mail delivery guy, and even he isn't safe. He's made a point of asserting dominance over all of them and keeping trophies from them along with a picture up on the wall. He's dedicated a big part of his personality to this as a result of the paperboy causing so much trauma to him. This right here was a big point in personal development for Dog when he was a pup. As time moved on, Dog decided that he wanted to bury that memory and try to forget about it, as evidenced by how he dismisses it when Cat brought it up in the beginning. He tried his best to repress the memory and swallow the emotions that came along with it. As a result, when it came back up again in the future, he was hit with a slew of unresolved feelings that threw him into a deep depression. The story in this episode is a beautiful one, as it would see Dog growing as a person, working through what happened to him, and doing his best to overcome it. You wouldn't know it based off of his happy-go-lucky demeanor, but Dog was holding on to childhood trauma, and the fact that this episode showcased him working through that was just amazing. This definitely comes with a few really important messages though. First of all, someone could be struggling and you might not know it because they don't wear it on their sleeve like some of us do. You would have never guessed that Dog had some repressed issues that he never worked through. And that's honestly probably the same for some of the people that you know in your personal life. With that being said, don't forget to check on your friends, even if they seem like they're doing great. Even further than that though, this episode showcases how things like this can manifest seemingly out of nowhere. Odds are, Dog likely didn't know that he was holding on to so many unresolved emotions regarding what happened with the paperboy as a pup, since he bottled it up such a long time ago. Sometimes you might not even know that you're holding on to something like that, and it takes a specific event to trigger that memory in your mind, such as what happened with Dog when the mailman beat him. It brought him right back to when he was a pup and was getting beat with a newspaper by the paperboy. At this point, he didn't even know that they were the same person, too. All in all, mental health is very important, and it's imperative to take yours seriously. Circling back to what I said earlier, though, this episode definitely gave me some more empathy and understanding for Cat, looking at it under a different lens. However, as far as Dog is considered, that different lens kind of amplified the amount of sadness that I feel for him in this episode. Seeing him feel defeated and getting bullied by everyone certainly felt like that inner child being broken. When it feels like you can't do anything right, the world isn't on your side, and you just want to give up and lay on the couch forever. This is a tough spot to be in. It hurt seeing Dog so depressed. They showed him just laying on the couch miserably, downing cans of cat food, which was of course a euphemism for falling into drinking when the depression hits really hard. This right here really hit like a ton of bricks, seeing Dog fall to this point and just feel so useless after being defeated by the mailman. With that being said though, it was really refreshing to see Cat give him his teeth back and pep talk him into getting back to his best version of himself. This right here is exactly what I'm talking about as far as appreciating Cat goes. He gets beaten up and treated like crap all the time, but when it comes down to it, Cat pulls through more often than not. I will say I do feel bad for him though, because he never did get that fish that he was waiting on throughout this entire episode. Moving on from there, kind of going in a more lighthearted direction, there are a few other random things that I wanted to touch on as we wind down towards the end of this video. As sad as Dog's childhood flashback was, I gotta say I really loved what they did with the art style. It felt like it was hand-drawn by colored pencils, and I just really love that feeling. There's a lot of this art style in Hey Arnold as well, and it's just so visually stimulating. It feels so authentic and hand-drawn, which for me is what I love most about the original Nicktoons from back in the day. I also love the fact that this episode in general is just kind of a play on Western films. I'm sure there's probably some specific references in here somewhere, but I don't know my Western films well enough to point out anything in particular. In general though, we have the standoff, obviously, which had a very classic Western feeling to it. We also have the saloon doors that ended up replacing their front door in the end sequence when they're in the desert, and of course we have the outfits worn by both the mailman and CatDog in the end. I also have to point out that part in the end where Cat is wearing the spurs for their outfit on his wrists. I don't know exactly why, but this is just too funny to me. All things considered, CatDog is a fantastic cartoon. It's one that I feel a lot of people tend to overlook due to taking it at such face value, but when you shift your perspective a little bit, it can add a lot of substance. I know a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of reading super far into things, but the thing is, when you consider different perspectives and think about things in a different angle, it can add a fun twist that you may not have considered before. When you're looking from a different perspective with the intention of gathering further substance, then reading further into things can be an interesting way to change how you look at a show that you may not have enjoyed all that much previously. But what do you guys think? Do you enjoy CatDog? Did I change your perceptions of this episode? Let me know in the comments down below. I always enjoy reading your guys' feedback. I have to give a massive shout out with all the love in the world to my patrons of the True 90s Kids tier. You guys are the absolute greatest, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Thanks for keeping the lights on around here. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and give me a high five in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.
CatDog, 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 CatDog. Alone in the world with a little CatDog.